In this video, I'm going to cover rendering manually in Passes. So start by adding a text object to your scene. Any other extrude object will work. And let's create some basic materials. The first is our diffuse material. So I'm just going to create a new material and name it diffuse. Diffuse means just plain color, nothing special. So I'm going to turn off the specular option as well. I'm now going to duplicate diffuse by holding down Control and dragging. And I'm going to rename it to 100% white. I'm going to open up 100% white, turn off color, and turn on luminance. This gives me a completely bright material, which will be great for building an alpha channel. Next, I'm going to duplicate 100% white, and I'm going to name it 100% black. Turn off all of those channels, and you get something like this. Because we're going to be rendering out in passes, it's really helpful to lay down a layer of black first. So drag 100% black onto your text object. And then on top of that, drag on diffuse, which I'm going to do by dragging it onto the name of my text object. When I render, I now have diffuse text like this. I'm going to name this text diffuse. I'm going to duplicate it, hide, or rather turn off the first object, and change the name of the second object to text alpha. Now, in the real world, we'd probably just render out an alpha channel with our text, but I want to show you how to manually build passes should that become necessary. Next, I'm going to drag the 100% white material on top of the diffuse material here. So what I now have is a completely white material. I'm going to duplicate text alpha, and now I'm going to turn off text alpha, and I'm going to restrict it to my caps. And this is really where this system is better than the object buffers. I'm going to change the name from text alpha to text alpha R1, which stands for rounding 1. I'm going to click on my material tag on the far right of my object, and I'm going to restrict it to the selection R1. Looks like this. Now going to duplicate my object one more time and name it C1 for cap 1. Turn it off, click on the texture tag on the far right, and change the selection to C1. So now when I render, I get this. I can render out my diffuse, my alpha, an alpha channel for my first rounding, and an alpha channel for my first cap. And the way that you would do that is just go into your render settings and change the output file name for each of these. So the first I'm going to name diffuse. Render it out. Oh, excuse me, I have to turn on diffuse for that to make sense. Next, I'm going to rename my render settings to alpha. Render this out. Alpha R1 and alpha C1. And there you go. We've successfully rendered out a series of passes that you can then take into After Effects or Photoshop and use to manipulate the different parts of your image.